It's a remarkable time for people of faith. What's so special? Not what's happening inside our faith communities, but what's happening outside in the world. There's the economic roller coaster, the threats of terrorism and climate change, and of course, the continuing and accelerating wonders of digital technology. We are in the digital age, a digital revolution, and it's shrinking the world, giving voice to the voiceless, and upending the powers that be. One of my friends was in Saudi Arabia during the Egyptian uprising. The saying was going around, Nasser was poisoned, Sadat assassinated, Mubarak was Facebooked. In the interview we saw with Father Jim Martin, he said the most frequent topic in America Magazine is the digital revolution and how it affects our spiritual lives, how we consume information, but also whether or not we're able to disconnect from the technology in order to connect with God more deeply. These changes are unique to our time. No people of faith have ever lived through these shifts. There's no map in the glove compartment, no app on our iPhones to show us the way, in spite of the thousands of apps that have to do with religion. We are the ones who are going to have to figure out what faith means now in the throes of the digital revolution. But the gift of the faith community is this: we don't have to figure it out alone. We have each other. And we also have the countless faithful who went before us. Because even though no one else has experienced these particular changes, we aren't the first to experience times of radical change. Bear with me as we take a trip down memory lane. I'm struck these days by how much we have in common with those who started the early Christian movement, or for that matter, Rabbinic Judaism. These traditions came to life in an age of globalization, courtesy then of the Greco-Roman Empire and its mammoth road-building efforts across Europe, Africa, and Asia Minor. Christianity would barely have made it out of Galilee at an earlier time. That age of globalization, like ours, connected people in ways they had never experienced before. Roman citizens were bombarded with new cultures, new commerce, new foods, new philosophies, new religions. One historian describes what he calls massive dislocations going on then, the sense that everything was changing, that precious little was predictable or secure or familiar. New philosophies competed with ancient religions as people grasped for some rule of life that could give them a sense of inward security and stability. Varying religious groups and philosophical schools differed in their recipes, but they all offered their followers the same thing: resilience against the shocks and changes, the shifting, restless insecurity of human affairs. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? It happened again in the 16th century, when ocean-going ships took explorers to cultures never imagined, and movable type unleashed a populist revolution. Suddenly, the world exploded as people realized that things didn't have to be the way they were. Ideas flew from place to place, courtesy of printing. They flattened hierarchies and gave the voiceless voice. Despots in power didn't stand a chance, and social structures, including the church, were up for grabs. Roman roads, movable type, and now the digital revolution, connecting people in unprecedented, unsettling, unpredictable ways. We're not the first to go through massive change, and it helps me to look back to earlier times for pointers. How did people of faith deal with all that change? There's a lot we can learn from them. First, they figured out what was essential from the past and what wasn't, keeping some things from their historic faith and letting go of others. For early Christians, if Gentiles were going to join, they had to figure out what was essential to the faith. Astonishingly, though they kept the Torah, they let go of dietary laws and even circumcision as being necessary to the covenant. In the Reformation, when everything else was changing, they decided that the Bible alone was going to be their rudder. But they let go of the hierarchy that had led the church for over a millennium. Whether or not they made the right choices is not ours to decide, but the radical changes they made were breathtaking. I wonder how we will discern what is essential and what we can let go of. For me, the sound of organ pipes lifting our voices to heaven is a powerful means of communing with God. But in the end, if my grandchildren never hear the Vidor Toccata or sing my favorite hymns, that doesn't mean they won't know the love of God. I love the Zen saying, never confuse the finger pointing to the moon with the moon. Never confuse the finger pointing to the moon with the moon. Like our forerunners in times of change, we can appreciate the past without worshiping it. Second, our earlier counterparts had to figure out how to connect with a culture that was changing around them. When the Apostle Paul went to Athens, he debated in the synagogue, but he also debated with philosophers in the city square, citing their poets along with his scripture. 1,500 years later, when John Calvin went to Geneva, he translated the worship service into French and even used the new media. One visitor noted an astonishing innovation. Everyone had hymnals in their hands, made possible by movable type. What would it mean for us to keep connecting with the changing world and not run from it? If we know God's voice, then we can discern its presence in 1,000 different places without being threatened. Moreover, our faith may be just the thing that helps someone else get through the massive shifts of change. There's an urgent conversation going on right now about justice and values and the meaning of human life. And that conversation is going on in the city square of commerce and politics and international relations. And it's taking place not only face-to-face, but over the internet. I hope and pray that people of faith are part of that conversation. In times of massive change, people of faith have work to do. First, to choose what's essential from the past, and then to choose how to connect what's essential with the new world around us. Ready or not, the digital revolution is here, and our work is cut out for us. Today, the globe has never been smaller. The pace of change has never been faster. But oddly enough, we're not alone. We're not just surrounded by a digital cloud. We're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. Long ago, people of faith who have been here before. We may be in uncharted territory, but God can still guide the way. Our part is to be open-hearted and with every tweet, text message, and Facebook posting to look for that next digital step along the journey.